Hello, Wolf. Thank you so much for being here on Queerly Beloved. How are you today, my love?
I'm fantastic, Will. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you this way.
Hmm.
In any way, in every way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm so excited to get into this conversation. You and I have had some Zoom calls in the past and realized that we were getting into some deep areas, some juicy subjects. And for me, as a podcast host that likes to bring these conversations to the wider public so that folks can learn from people like you, in those conversations we've had previously, realized, wait, let's pause this a moment and create some structure around this so that maybe other folks can get to benefit from this deep wisdom that you hold. So thank you for making the time for this today.
Like I said, I'm honored to be here with you today. Um, I always like to start with a prayer myself
Mm,
and you know, just want to say that, if there's anything that comes out of this conversation, that it is able to uplift and bring some help, some medicine for somebody out there. Mm,
mm,
that what we are doing here today is able to help in some way, some big way for somebody or more than just one,
mm,
however, whoever. Um, and I'm opening myself up to Great Spirit and to Mother Earth and to the spirits, the
mm,
grandfathers and the grandmothers, to the ancient ones, to all that is, um,
mm,
so that you, grandfathers, grandmothers, can have a voice in sharing um, whatever it is that wants to be shared here today, and pray for many blessings for all people. Home and
mm. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that prayer. Hmm. So I have a bit of a ritual opening question, which is a playful question. And the question is, who are you in this moment, on this day, in this life? But tell me by describing the perfect drag avatar. And, with a drag avatar, it doesn't have to be a drag queen. It can be a animal, a element. It can be anything. But that's the invitation, and I am happy to go first if that's helpful. This is a bit of a creative question.
Okay,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. Well, if you're ready, let's go.
I mean, the first thing that came up to me was the grandmother.
Mm.
Well, you said the perfect, I would say ideal
Yeah,
drag
ideal.
avatar to
Mm,
represent, what I'm feeling in this moment
mm,
and what is wanting to move in this moment is the grandmother.
mm,
She's an ancient one and she's so amazing. She's really old and she's
mm,
has so much experience. She's a big nurturer and
mm,
really takes care of the people in a very loving way,
mm, in
in a very nurturing way, in a very caring way. But she's also, she she's firm at times.
mm,
She's like, no, no. When it's time, if it's necessary, she'll be like, no, 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 you're not going to get away with that.
mm. Awesome. Beautiful. We got some grandmother energy in our space. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, and as you said that, it had me tune into this energy as student, as granddaughter or grandson or grandbaby. And not to say that I don't respect the years that I've put into my work and to the experience that I have. I recognize that I hold this potential as an elder down the line. And in this moment, I feel like my drag avatar would be this hungry student or this grandchild excited to hear grandmother's stories.
Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. So that's what I'm tuning into. So I know that you have recently received this exciting press, this interest from the world around your new unexpected family member. Speaking of granddaughter, speaking of these familial ties, congratulations, first of all,
Wow.
on this.
Thank you. It's still so
Mm,
mind blowing.
yeah. And so I feel like we could spend the whole hour talking about this, but without using all the time, because there's other topics I'd love to get into. I'd love you to give a brief explanation of what we're talking about, this new daughter in your life, and then maybe share about what this has meant to you from a spiritual perspective to suddenly have this new relative and a very important relative.
So to give the listeners here a brief explanation, 4 years ago, 3 weeks after shutdown, lockdown, COVID, um, my husband and I had four guys um, come here to stay with us to quarantine on our property. We weren't quarantining, we were quarantining for 2 months, and we were holding a lot of ceremony
Mm,
and doing what we could to hold the counterbalance for what was happening in the country and in the world. You know, there was
mm,
like so much fear, and we were doing everything that we could to just lift
mm,
the energy and hold love and hold the counterbalance.
mm,
And we were in the midst of a 4 day weekend that we had chosen to do numerous ceremonies over that 4 days. And the last day was Tuesday, the 7th of April. It was a full moon. We were doing the
mm,
ceremony that evening. That morning, I got a message on Facebook from this incredibly beautiful young
mm,
woman. I was like, wow, she's so pretty.
mm,
And we had no friends in common. And I just thought, yeah, I almost deleted the message. I mean, deleted the friend request, but then I saw that she sent me a message. And so I looked at the message and she basically was saying, due to a DNA test, ancestry DNA test, we have a parent child match. And she'd been looking for me her whole life. She was 33.
wow.
And, it was a one night stand back in 1986. And she said, I know this is shocking news and you might need a few days to process, but I hope that you choose to respond to my message. And
Mm,
I mean, I read that message on Facebook a couple of times before it really sunk in. Like, I mean, it didn't really sink in actually. It was shocking. Like this girl
mm,
thinks she's my what? She's my
mm,
who?
mm,
And she thinks I'm her what? And I couldn't say the words daughter or father. I was just like,
mm,
she thinks what?
mm.
And I read it like four times before it clicked, ancestry
Wow.
DNA match. So I went to my ancestry page, and sure enough, at the top of my page, above my sister, my mother, there was my daughter. Her name
Wow.
was Alexandra Lovett. It said parent-child match, probability 100%, and
Wow.
that's
Ooh.
that's what I mean. I did that. I was like, what? What? Like, I'm a gay man? I mean, yeah, I when I was young, I fooled around with a few women here and there, but
Mm,
I mean, I thought I knew the few women that I had fooled with,
sure.
fooled around with. I thought so I was confused. I was like,
Mm,
how is this happening? And
Mm.
screamed for my husband. He came running over, and then I couldn't even say it. I said, look at this, and he looked at the screen and he screamed. He was like, "Oh my God, you have a daughter!" And he
Wow.
was so excited. I was like, and it was the first time I audibly heard, you have a daughter, and
Mm.
it was like this jolt of electricity that went through me,
Mm.
and the funny thing is, a friend of mine here. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. A friend of mine that leads men's circles. In February, I went to his men's circle, and there was probably about 15 guys, and I think I was the only gay man or two-spirit
Mhm.
in the circle. I mean, I don't really know for sure, but I believe that I was, and and there was song and dance to start the circle for the first hour, and then we sat down for some time to have a talking circle. And the subject of the talking circle that my friend Tim introduced is, what have you fathered, or what are you fathering
Mm.
in your life? And
Mhm.
I mean, the question shocked me,
Mm.
because I had never in my life considered anything I do as fathering.
Mm.
I had never considered being a father.
Mm.
I had never considered that I'm fathered
Mm.
anything or fathering anything.
Mm.
And in the work that I do, the healing work that I do, and leading Sweat Lodge is the womb of the mother. And when I
Mhm.
stand outside that lodge after the ceremony's over, and I'm helping the people come out of the lodge, I feel like I'm mothering. I am
Mm.
mothering is what I do. And
Mhm.
so I said that, it was my turn to speak. I was like, fathering. That's like a weird question to me. I never even
Mm.
thought of that question ever in my life. But what I do is mothering. And well, I mean, that was in February of 2020. And then this lockdown happened. And then I
Mm.
get this message from this
Wow.
young woman. She says, basically, "Hi, Dad. I've been looking for you my whole life."
Wow.
I mean, just saying this just now, I just got chills up and down my spine and goosebumps.
Mm.
I called her immediately. I wrote back. I said, "I don't need a few days. I need your phone number. I'm confused here and I have questions." Um, so my husband and I FaceTime with her
Mm.
immediately. And I got her on the phone. I mean, I was like just struck with how incredibly beautiful she is.
Mm.
And she was crying,
Mm.
and I said, you know, I mean, how, how, I don't know how this happened. How did this
Mm.
happen? Do you know how this happened? And she said, well, my mom just basically said, she had a one night stand. She picked you up in a gay bar. Um, you guys were both very drunk.
Mm.
You snuck out in the middle of the night, or for the crack of dawn. You were
Mm.
sneaking out, and she knew your first name, and she never knew anything else about me.
Wow.
So my daughter Alexandra is her name, Alexandra
Mhm.
Lovett. Never had a way of finding me until these home tests came out, and I
Mhm.
happened to be on Ancestry.
Wow.
And as the pieces of the puzzle are clicking. I mean, there's more details that I don't need to go into right
Mhm.
now about, yes, we were living in the same location, and it was obvious that this was, I mean, and then looking at her, there was family resemblance there. I mean,
Mm. So
so it
cool.
was like the pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but at the same time, it was like, I mean, it was just, I was in shock.
Mm.
And I'd never been in shock like that before.
Hmm.
Um, um,
Mm.
and at some point she said, "Oh, and by the way," she called me Papa. The first out of the starting gate. she called me Papa, and I was like, and she said, I found you on Facebook after getting our DNA test, and I found you and look, finding you on Facebook, I see that I have um, spent my life looking for my dad, and I get two for the price of one.
Amazing.
So obviously, she saw my husband on my
Mm,
Facebook page. She said she
mm.
looked at every picture I'd ever posted
Wow.
the day before. I mean, she found me on Monday afternoon. I didn't get her message until Tuesday morning.
Mm,
So she had half a day to really like
mm,
investigate and come to know me a little bit, right, through my
mm,
Facebook page.
mm.
Um, I had no clue. I didn't, just totally clueless. But she said, by the way, Papa, my last name, Lovett, is a French name that means little wolf.
Wow. Epic.
And that was a moment. I mean, I almost dropped my phone. That was a moment, I looked up at the sky and I said to Spirit, like, what are you doing? Like, you are clearly, clearly behind this. I mean,
Mm.
it's clearly, I mean, what are you doing? Um, so I wanted to give that little bit of a background
Yeah.
to respond to your question.
Mm.
Um, the first couple of weeks, I cried for I couldn't stop crying for 2 weeks.
Wow. Mm.
And part of what was swimming around, in my heart, in my head, in my
Mm.
spirit was a father, like I never even thought about being a father. How do I like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what
Mhm.
that means.
Mhm.
And I kept thinking that, and that evening we had our ceremony that Tuesday night.
Mhm.
Of course, the intention behind the ceremony completely shifted
Yeah, yeah.
given the events of the day. And and I went into that ceremony like, I don't know what that father, I don't know what that means. I don't know and how do you do that with she was 33 at the time. How do you
Mm.
do that with a 33-year-old woman? Like, she's a
Mhm.
woman.
Mhm.
Um and and um and it dawned on me that I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't know how to be a father. I don't know what that means, but I do know how to love.
Mhm.
And and the only thing I can do is just love this
Mhm.
young woman who had been looking for me her whole life, who never had a
Mm.
father. Her mother never married. She never had a stepfather. She never had a
Mm.
father figure.
Mm.
So it was, in the years of doing healing work that I've done, how many people have I worked on, if not everybody, that has parent issues of some sort,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I knew, okay, so she's never had a father. Like, okay, how do I just
Mm.
gotta love this girl, I just gotta love her.
Mhm.
I gotta love my daughter.
Amazing. What a beautiful story. It makes me emotional hearing it. And you asked this question, Spirit, what are you doing? I love the humility of that. Like, what is this? And I know that this is still fresh for you, but what have you come to learn? What have you come to realize? How is Spirit answering that question? What is this opportunity calling you into? How is it?
Um, okay, you asked more than one question there.
I know, I
Um,
asked like four. I apologize.
um, my father had passed in 2018, and I knew before he passed that he had been doing some work to build our family tree and to find
Mm,
our ascendants
mhm,
and grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents. Not we knew our grandparents, but we didn't know our great great grandparents. And so I got onto Ancestry after he had passed. I felt like, he had left me signs,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
felt inspired to continue the work in building our family tree. So
Wow.
I did my DNA test and I got onto Ancestry, looking,
Mm.
researching for those ascendants,
Mm-hmm.
and then I hadn't, obviously I didn't have any idea that I had descendants. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't looking in that direction.
Sure.
But then when that happened, this was 2 years after my DNA test.
Mm-hmm.
When this happened, um, I felt like my dad passed away and he got home to the other side and he always longed for a granddaughter and he
Wow.
knew that there was one. He saw
Mm.
that there was one. And
Mm.
so I felt like he gave me signs to get onto Ancestry, that he knew
Wow.
this would come,
Mm.
that he wanted her to be a part of our family, that he could
Mm.
see she was, on some level, um,
A lone wolf. A lone little wolf.
she had her mother, she had her grandmother at the time.
Mm.
Um, a year and a half after she and I met, her mother and her grandmother passed away.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
she didn't have the closest relationship with her mother, and on some levels, she
Mm-hmm.
she did feel alone. She did feel,
Mm.
there was that loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe probably it was stemmed from not having ever had a father.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like my dad was really behind this whole thing. So,
Mm.
in the question of, what are you doing? Um, the answer I got was that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the other questions that you asked
No,
now.
that one's perfect. Yeah, I really in that I hear this puzzle, this puzzle that was meant to be brought together for healing for your father and for you and for her. And that in weaving this together through these miraculous synchronicities,
Miraculous.
yeah, you all were able to find this connection. That's what's coming to mind is the image of like a heart puzzle, and there's pieces of the heart puzzle that are missing, and they were able to come together in this beautiful way. And the other thing that was coming through for me, I was sharing before we jumped on that I'm heading to Scotland next week, to explore that part of my ancestry. So I realized I was 45% Scottish and have never been to Scotland. And I'm just really present to the opportunity to learn about who we are through ancestry work. I think it's just such a fabulous way to learn about who we are by connecting with who we were in the past, what brought us to this moment. And what's interesting about this new turn for you is I think there's also opportunity for us to learn who we are from our descendants or it's interesting. I was at a radical fairy gathering recently, and they talked about the ancestries of the future. They talked about which I don't know semantically if that's correct, but it was so beautiful. And they talked about the radical fairies that are not yet born, that are coming, and how we get to hold space for them and how they are part of our story too. And so I get to learn about myself from the ancestry of the past, but I can also be thinking about the ancestors of the future. And that is a new invitation for me. And I hear it present in your story. I don't know if that resonates for you.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So, early on and still to this day, I've only known Alexandra for 4 years, and every time we're together, we discover these, mm, um, I don't know, synchronicities.
Mm.
I see so much of the things that she says and
Mm.
does that blow my mind,
Mm.
because it's like, well, I mean, I didn't raise you. How did you learn those phrases? And
Wow.
how are you, like, she has so many of my traits, and
Mm.
not just physical. I'm talking, other traits that are not physical,
Mm.
and and it really it's really mind-blowing
Mm,
what the DNA actually carries.
yes.
And we know, indigenous people, native people, we know
Mm,
that so much of who we are comes from our parents, our grandparents, our great
mm,
grandparents, our ancestors. We
mm,
know that so much of what we are, who we are, is going to affect the generations yet to come. So
mhm,
everything that we do in our ceremonies is in consideration of the seven
mm,
generations that came before and the seven generations yet to come.
mm,
Because every decision we make in
mhm,
this life is not affecting our life, it's affecting the seven generations.
mhm,
And
mhm,
with that kind of wisdom
mhm,
or consideration of
mhm,
that knowledge, it really forces us to think twice, right?
mhm,
In every
mhm,
choice that we make, in
mhm,
knowing that, okay, everything I'm doing is going to not just affect my children, it's going to affect my
mhm,
grandchildren, it's going to affect their
mhm,
grandchildren. Um, Down the line. And
mhm,
so, do you really want to um, indulge that addiction? Do you really want
mhm,
to indulge that habit? Do you really want
mhm.
to make that choice?
Sure.
I mean, because your life doesn't belong to you. It's not
Mm,
yours.
mm,
Your life belongs to the seven generations.
yes.
And
It's
and 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 maybe that addiction is something
mhm,
that came from our ancestors,
mhm,
and it's not the addiction, it's the feeling behind the addiction that
mhm,
causes it, right?
mhm,
It's the it's the insecurity or the feeling of unworthiness or not
mhm,
belonging that is
mhm,
so often leads
mhm,
people into their addictions. And yeah, I mean, my grandpa, I learned that he carried that, and then in a ceremony, I saw that there were others behind him, and
yes.
what I learned was by making the choice not to do this, I
Mm,
was liberating
mm,
those ones that came before me.
mhm, mhm,
And I see that my daughter struggles with those things too.
mm,
And by being who I am today, has really had an effect. I don't have to tell her anything just by being, because I don't, that was another part of how you father a 33-year-old. Like,
mhm,
I want to tell her what to do.
mhm.
Um, Although I did kind of want to tell her what to do. But I was like, no, I'm not going to tell her what to do. It's her
Sure.
life.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and But by living the way I live and holding
Mhm.
the example that I hold, I see how these things rub off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does feel like such a pivotal time for humanity to be looking at things from this seven generation perspective. And I feel like one of the reasons that we are where we're at with things like climate change is because folks have had a myopic perspective and their day-to-day decisions are based on what best serves them rather than this wider, larger picture perspective that we are responsible for not just this moment in this life, but for a much greater, more expanded responsibility. So yeah, I think it's such an important theme to
This brings
bring.
this is bringing up something
Mm,
that I want to,
yeah,
sorry to
please. No,
interrupt,
please go for it. Yeah.
um, that I feel is relevant, and I don't want to
Mhm.
forget it.
Yeah, please.
Um, you know, Um, I, I feel this podcast is probably going out to the, fairy community,
Hmm.
queer community, gay community, whatever,
Hmm.
and most of us don't have children.
Yeah.
Most of us probably won't have children, or maybe some of us will adopt children.
Hmm.
Um, but in the old way, in native ways, two-spirit people
Mm.
um, we were the caretakers of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Although oftentimes we didn't have um, our own children biologically,
Mm-hmm.
we if a child was orphaned, um, they were often given to one of the two spirits in
Mm-hmm.
the tribe to raise that child. We were the caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of our role, to take care of the children, to take care of the language, to take care of the songs and the
Mm-hmm.
stories and many things that we were the caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not just true about two spirits. It's true about humans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The warriors had their role
Mm-hmm.
in how they took care of the tribe. The women had their role in how they took care of the tribe, and the two spirits, we had our roles in how
Mm-hmm.
we took care of the tribe. And so there was different roles, but all of them were about taking care and nurturing
Mm-hmm.
and um, mm, ensuring not just the survival, but that the tribes thrived through the year,
Mm-hmm.
you know, through the winter.
Yes.
And so, you know, as queer, two spirit, fairies, whatever,
Mm.
however you identify, maybe you don't see a lot of children in your life,
Mm.
maybe you do, but that may be in this moment. You don't know what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do now,
Mm.
it will have an impact on the future generations.
Mm.
Doesn't have to be your biological blood.
Mm-hmm.
It will affect the coming generation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just part of the wisdom that's been passed down through the generations. This is how indigenous people have always lived, and not just, you know, I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
talking about North America, Central or South America, but you know,
Mm.
around the world, including your ancestors from Scotland and from
Mm-hmm.
Europe and Asia and Africa, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
this is wisdom that indigenous people always
Mm-hmm.
held on to. And this is why when we're in ceremony, we call our ancestors, because
Mm-hmm.
you know we're maybe going to that ceremony to heal something or change something within ourselves. And as we do so, we're affecting so much more than we will ever see
Mm.
and ever understand.
Yes. Yeah, one of the things that I love that I've learned from Indigenous folks is this idea of all my relations. This reminder that we are all related. And so even for the folks that you're speaking to, the queer folks who maybe will never have biological children, it's this reminder that in a sense we do these are our children, these are our brothers, these are our aunts and our uncles, all of us are related. And so that when we think about this world and the future of this world, the future of humanity, it does matter, even if we don't have a child and a grandchild that is going to be impacted. In a sense we do, because we are all related.
You know, we're talking about societies and traditions in which we were um, not just included, but
Mm-hmm.
embraced
Mm-hmm.
as members of the tribe, as part
Mm-hmm.
of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our dominant patriarchal society has shunned us and tried to push us away, and
Mm-hmm.
the acceptance
Mm-hmm.
of every child
Mm-hmm.
was part. It was not just acceptance. The English is such a strange thing here. Um, um, it wasn't just acceptance. But you know, in English, you would say, okay, every child that was born was not just born to the mother and father, was born to the tribe, right? To the
Mm,
whole of the tribe. And so every child was nurtured and included,
mm,
and the spirit of that child, the gender of that child, which was revealed, the child would reveal their gender at
mm,
the age of, you know, 2 or 3,
mm,
or, you know, whenever that child revealed their gender. But regardless, the spirit of that child was nurtured by the parents, the grandparents, and by the whole
mm,
of the tribe. in the
Mm.
knowing that every child born is bringing a gift for the people.
Mhm.
Our differences, what we have in common with one another, greatly outweighs our differences. This is how we know that we are all related.
Mhm.
But what is different in each individual is a gift that we are
Mhm.
bringing to help and serve the greater
Mhm.
whole.
Mhm.
And in this dominant society, um, yeah, we've been shunned, we've been pushed
Mhm.
away, we've been killed, we've been,
Mhm.
you know, erased from history or tried to be
Mhm.
erased from history.
Mhm.
But the acceptance, we can't look outside for that, right? We have to
Mhm.
accept ourselves. We have to look
Mhm.
inside. We have to accept ourselves. And
Mhm.
in doing so, and maybe this is why, because in the ability of really accepting and loving ourselves the way we are,
Mhm.
that really empowers us to just be who
Mhm.
we are, right? And
Mhm.
it's not as important if you accept me or if you judge me. I'm still me and I'm going to
Mhm.
be me and I accept me and I
Mhm.
love me. And if you love me, hallelujah. Thank
Mhm.
you. And if you don't, well, thank you for revealing not to go in that direction, but to go in another direction.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, as human beings, um, um, we're loving beings, and
Mhm.
we have the capacity to love all people.
Mhm.
We've been conditioned in this society to really think so much about ourselves and not think about the greater whole of all
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
which is a crime against humanity, I feel. But
Mhm.
innately, we all have that care for humanity. Somebody
Mhm.
walking down the street, falls down or whatever, the people come running, right? Because that's just
Mhm.
our instinct as human beings.
Mhm.
They're not wondering, oh, well, if he is he a Republican? Is he?
Hmm. Yeah, so much good stuff. And what I want to speak to is this acceptance or yeah, I agree that there's a better there's a more it's maybe it's embrace a celebration of the differences. There's been such an emphasis on everyone conforming and everyone finding the common way that we move forward, and what that does is it can potentially strip us of the unique gifts that we are meant to bring. And
Right,
so to come from this place grounded in the knowing that we bring special codes that we are meant to bring into this world, into this human tribe, that despite the world telling us that we need to conform and we need to be like everyone else, if we can come back to this knowing that we hold something sacred and something unique, and if we're able to be grounded in that and allow our authentic expression of our unique consciousness to come through, then all these beautiful gifts, all these beautiful lights come together in a way that perhaps works, in a way that perhaps humanity can be this sustainable harmony of an expression of life. And I feel like that's so much of the work that we are invited into at this new wave of
so I hear
consciousness.
you say, if we are able to blah blah blah, be
Mm,
grounded, accept
mm,
love, I heard you say, if we are, and I would not say that.
mm.
I would say when we are
When,
able to.
when we are able to. Oh, yes. Mm.
And
Mm.
and it's not work. There's no
Mm.
work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
It's just love.
Mm.
And if loving is work, it's not
Mm.
love.
Mm. Yeah.
Love is
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the heart, it's in the spirit,
Mm.
it's who we are.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I used to say for years, and I hear people say it too, I'm working on myself and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
one of my elders early on said, well, working on yourself doesn't work, just love.
Mm. Mm. Beautiful.
And, we've been conditioned to think that there's this work that we have to do.
Mm,
And,
mm,
um, and if we, from my experience, I can just say from my experience, if
mm,
I approach my spirituality, my relationship with
mm,
myself, my relationship with my husband, if I approach relationship, period, whether it's with
mhm,
spirit, with self, or
mhm,
another person, as
mhm.
work, it's not fun.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
harder, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And if it's not fun, it's not going to bring us joy. And if it's not bringing us joy, then we're kind of like, okay, I gotta go, call my mom. Um,
Yeah.
and so I
Mm,
mean, and I know that sometimes, for some people, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, whatever,
mm,
lovers, husbands, whatever, wives, sometimes it feels like work.
mm,
And for me, you know, early on in that recognition was like, okay, what do I have to change inside myself
mm,
so that I can approach these relationships in a way that doesn't feel like work? I don't need them to
mhm,
change
mhm,
because that's the work. If we think we need them to change, then there's good
mhm,
luck,
mhm.
because
Mm,
changing oneself is not an easy thing, but it can be easy.
mhm.
But trying to change another is futile,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to change another, you're not loving how they are and who they are. And yet
Mm,
we're crying to be loved how we
mhm,
are and who we are.
mhm,
And if
mm,
we're approaching that in a way that's demanding, then
mhm,
it ain't gonna work.
mhm,
Um, we have to approach in a loving and a respectful way ourselves and each other. And we can't give respect if we don't give it to ourselves first,
mhm,
right? We
mhm,
can't give humility if we don't give it to ourselves first. We
mm,
can't give um, mm, love.
mhm.
Right? That's what
Beautiful.
we're talking about.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
have.
beautiful. Yeah, what was coming through for me is this opportunity to take 100% responsibility for all our relations, and that in doing so we are more empowered to be in our relationships with everything, right? With people, with the world, with every aspect of the world. When we are taking that full responsibility, we are empowered to create the relationship that we desire. We're empowered to create a relationship that is more playful, that is more joyful. And
Right.
and that's the kinds of relationships that I want. And the other thing that was coming through when you were pushing back around this word work, which I really appreciate, and I am a champion of play. I love play. I love bringing play.
Oh,
It's
right.
my favorite, most joyful energy that I love to hold and to invite. And the other energy that was coming through, or the other invitation, is this energy of surrender, right? That so sometimes it's about like we get into this, or folks can get into this mindset of I have to push, I have to try to work on myself, and it's the truth is that well the truth is that the truth is where we're moving towards, what we're wanting to move towards, and we don't kind of chip away to get to the truth. We surrender into the truth. The truth is always here. It's already there.
So I love this word surrender. To me,
Mm.
it means relax.
Yeah, relax.
Relax.
Yeah.
Come into your comfort zone inside.
Mm.
Come into that sacred
Mm.
place inside,
Mm.
right? Oh, my husband's butting up against me right now. Oh, okay, relax.
Mhm.
This is providing an opportunity. Some people say challenge. This is providing an opportunity for me to come that much more into my center and,
Mm.
into um, my ability to express really honestly and clearly what is in my heart, in my
Mhm.
desire, in my intention. You know, this is an opportunity, and so you know, Any relationship, our elders, our peers, our all our relationships, there's going to be challenges that arise.
Mm.
But I always see these things as opportunities to grow.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
I don't mind the word challenge, um, because we don't evolve without that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, this is another part of, what you were saying around, work. Um, our words have so much power. And
Mhm.
if we just reframe the word a little bit, it opens up doors of possibility.
Mhm.
I've talked to people that for some people the word work is they love it,
Sure.
and they want, they like that,
Mhm.
and okay, if it works for you, then hallelujah. But
Sure.
um I'm just sharing what was shared with me by
Mhm.
some of my elders, and as I applied it to my life, experimented with it, as I was willing to experiment with, because my also one of the things my elders would always say, don't look to me as, holding the truth. Um,
Mhm.
I'm sharing some teachings, and if you apply them, experiment to see if they work for you.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And I am present to that being the theme of this conversation, of us sharing some truths and putting them out there for folks to get to engage with and potentially experiment with as well.
I I I I I have been so blessed in this life. I love my life.
It's
I've been so blessed to have some beautiful things shared with me. I gotta turn this off. Somebody.
okay. There's a lot of affirmations in this technical sound of yes,
I've
yes,
had
Wolf,
so many
yes.
blessings of people sharing some of these teachings and some of these wisdoms,
Mm,
and and experimenting with them and
mm,
applying them to my life and seeing, you know, um, how they lift me or challenge me, or
mm,
what they do, and I've always known that these things they don't belong to me. They're not mine.
mm,
it, it's not mine to hold. It's mine to
mhm,
pass on and share and give. And
mm,
um, I feel that's why a big part of the reason why Spirit led me in the places and the directions that Spirit led me.
mm,
And I'm really grateful how this
mm.
conversation has moved here today.
Yeah.
Wow, so beautiful. Thank
Mm.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any final words, invitations, anything else? Mm,
Yeah, I'd just ask who's ever listening right now,
mm,
to place both your feet on the ground. If you're sitting, in a chair on a couch, or if you're sitting on the floor, hallelujah. Um,
mhm,
but, but if you're not sitting on the floor, place your both feet flat on the ground. Lay your palms open toward the sky on your lap. Relax your shoulders. Take some
mm,
big, deep breaths into your belly. And maybe we should have done this at the beginning, of this conversation. But take in what you are feeling, what you have been, what feelings this conversation has inspired in you. Take it in
mm,
right now, to your belly, to your heart, and let it swim around, and
mm,
see, how it feels. Explore, what
mm,
feelings these words that have been shared here, this spirit, what
mm,
it brings up for you, has brought up for you, is bringing up for you.
mm.
And if there's one thing, any one thing that I pray that this conversation has and does and will bring up for you is, you know, an inspiration for
Mm,
you to free yourself more. And
mm,
love is the only thing that can do that.
mm,
To let go of any part of you that feels, there's a fight or
mm,
or a battle. Um, hmm, um, Oftentimes those feelings come from some part of us that is afraid, afraid of
mm,
that we're not respected, that we're not loved, and
mm,
ultimately it's really, the love that we're crying for. So let go of that fear and just love.
mm. Oh, mm,
Aho mitakuyasin.
mm, oh. Mm. Phew, thank you so much. So beautiful. Thank you, Wolf. So much love to you.
That was awesome. Thank you. Wow. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.